So what are some of the challenges of monetary policy? So we've seen open market operations, we've seen required reserve ratio changes, we've seen the discount window. And as I said, the discount window is not used as a lot in modern economies. So what are some of the challenges we've got with these different types of monetary policies? Well, some difficulties and challenges. The first would be that, as you've seen, all of this is very indirect. The central bank, let's say, does an open market operation. They push more money into the economy. The amount of loanable funds increases. The interest rates fall. As interest rates fall, investment increases. Consumption increases. All this is a chain of events that takes time. And it doesn't happen overnight. So monetary policy can take time to have an impact. Secondly, banks may hold excess reserves. Banks choose how much they hold in reserves. That's part of how they manage their bank. And some banks are maybe more cautious than other banks. So even though the central bank says, oh, you have to keep 2% in required reserves, maybe they keep 5 or 10%. This is their choice. And so if the central bank says, okay, we're going to expand the money supply. Imagine they do an open market operation, so banks have more money. That doesn't mean that the bank's going to loan it out. The bank can keep the money in form of cash. And so we don't really know, central banks really don't know the efficiency or the effectiveness of their expansionary policy. Now this is a concern primarily for expansionary policy. It's not a concern for contractionary policy. But if banks hold excess reserves and we have cautious banks, well, the Fed may say, hey, let's expand the economy. Hey, it doesn't work. And the last thing I want to talk about, that's some of the difficulties, it's what's called management of velocity of money. And I want to explain this through a very simple example of what is velocity. So velocity of money looks at how often a dollar note or a euro note, if that existed, circulates in an economy in a given period of time. Let's take a look at a very simple example. Here we've got a euro note that exists, and this person has the note, and they're going to exchange it with this person in exchange for 2 apples that cost 50 cents. The person then that receives the note during this period of time is going to, at some point, exchange that euro note for, let's say, 1 hour of babysitting. So it's exchanged again, and the person receives 1 hour of babysitting, and they give the euro note in exchange for the babysitting. The babysitter is going to take the euro note and maybe buy some bread. Well, the price of a loaf of bread is 2 euros, so they're going to buy half a loaf of bread, and they give the euro note to the baker. The baker then takes the euro note and goes to the movies. So they give the movie cinema 1 euro in exchange for a low-cost cinema movie of 1 euro. So this euro bill over this 1 year period of time has changed hands 4 times. And that's the velocity of money. That's the velocity of the average euro bill, let's say. Now, this helps us understand something extremely important called the basic quantity equation of money. We know that we have 1 euro bill in this economy. So the money supply in this example is just 1 euro. To be able to buy all this stuff, the money had to change hands 4 times. So the velocity of money is 4. And it would change hands so we could spend money or expenditures. And expenditures or consumption in this case is GDP. So the nominal GDP is the value of goods and services purchased, and we can see what the value of goods and services purchased is in this very simple example. It's the price of apples times the quantity of apples, right? 2 apples at 50 cents each. It's the price of babysitting times the quantity of babysitting, well, 1 hour at 1 euro per hour. It's the price of bread times the quantity of bread purchased. Well, the price of bread is 2, so I bought 1/2 a loaf with the 1 euro I had. And the price of a movie times the quantity of movies. Well, here the price of a movie is 1, and I bought 1. The total amount expended, this is pretty obvious in this example, is also just 4 or 4 euros. So the equation tells us the following. It tells us that the money supply has to circulate enough to pay for the amount of goods and services purchased, or nominal GDP. Nominal GDP, however, is the price level times real GDP, or production. And if we insert that into our equation, we get that money supply times velocity is equal to the price level times real GDP, or M times V equals P times Q. So the challenge with monetary policies is making sure that as we increase the amount of money, it allows us to make the expenditures we want to expend. So why is velocity important for monetary policy? If velocity is not predictable, if it varies and is unstable, we have a hard time managing the amount of money in the economy. We need to make sure the money is there to permit people to buy the goods and services they want. But if velocity is 4, and then one day it's 2, and then one day it's 6, and then one day it's 4, then we have a hard time managing the money in the economy. So unpredictable movements or changes of velocity can limit the effectiveness of monetary policy. When velocity is stable, we like to have a growth of money supply also to be stable. But if velocity is changing a lot, then money supply is going to have to respond to these changes, and that makes monetary policy very, very difficult.